Hello everyone, it's me Sanjay Vasu back again for another video. This time I'll be doing it on Cambridge IGCSE Math Practice Questions. And this time it's going to be on the topic of recognizing, sketching and interpreting graphs of functions. Let's start. Question 1. Write down the letter of the graph which could represent each of the following equations. Y equals 2 minus x squared, that's the A part. The graph of y equals 2 minus x squared is a quadratic graph. And this quadratic graph, since it has a negative value of a in ax squared plus bx plus c, so a is negative, in this case minus 1, therefore the graph is going to be in an N shape or inverted U shape, and therefore the correct letter is E. B, y equals 2 to the power of minus x. This is the same thing as 1 by 2 to the power of x. And first of all, this is an exponential graph, so it has to look like either D or F. And in these, 2 to the power of x can look like this because as x approaches infinity, 2 to the power of x also approaches infinity. But then, in this case, as x approaches infinity, this approaches 0. So, it's the other way around. It is graph F. And the last one, y equals 2 by y equals 2 by x is in the form of y equals a by x, where a is positive, or in other words, positive 2. And if a is positive, that means the two wings of this graph, or the two curves of this graph, will be in the first and third quadrants, like this. Because when x is positive, y has to be positive, and when x is negative, y has to be negative. So, we get our answer as B. Let's go to question 2. Sketch the graph of 2x plus 3y equals 18. On your sketch, write the values where the graph crosses x-axis and y-axis. Alright, here x and y-axis are given and then the origin point is labeled. One thing to note for sketching a graph is that you do not need to label the axes like 1, 2, 3, and so on with the scales. So you don't need to do that. You just need to label the points, which is given here. So 2x plus 3y equals 18. Let's write this in y equals mx plus c. 3y equals 18 minus 2x. Y equals 6 minus 2 by 3x. Now, let's find the x-intercept. So this is where y equals 0. So 0 equals 6 minus 2 by 3x. That means 2 by 3x equals 6 and x is equal to 9. Now, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So it's simply 6 minus 2 by 3 times 0, which is 6. And the coordinate for this is going to be 9, 0 and 0, 6. Now 9, 0 is going to be here, 0, 6 is over here, and we can draw a line through the 2 points and of course extend it to draw the graph of this line. Of course, this is a sketch, so we don't need to label anything except for these points. This is 0, 6 and this is 9, 0 right there. We label the line as well. 2x plus 3y equals 18. Remember to label it in the same way that the question is stated. Don't label it as y equals 6 minus 2 by 3x. That'll be our answer. Let's go to question 3. Sketch the graph of y equals x squared plus 2x. On your sketch, write the values where the graph crosses the x and y axis. So y equals x squared plus 2x is a quadratic graph, so it'll be in the shape of a U. And why is it U and not inverted U? That's because the x squared coefficient is positive, which is positive 1 here. So it's in the upward U shape. Now x squared plus 2x, we can find the x and y intercepts. So the x-intercepts, that's where y is equal to 0, and that will be x squared plus 2x is equal to 0. So x times x plus 2 equals 0, and x equals 2 or x equals 0. Sorry, x equals minus 2 or x equals 0. Because if this is equal to 0, then that's just x equals 0. If this bracket's equal to 0, that means x equals 0 minus 2, which is negative 2. X equals minus 2 and x equals 0 are the x-intercepts, which I've marked on the graph. Now the y-intercept is where x equals 0. But when x equals 0, y is also equal to 0. We can see y equals 0 squared minus 2 times 0. Sorry, plus 2 times 0. That's simply 0. So this is the y-intercept, and that is still this point. So the x and y-intercept are shared at the origin, and there's one more x-intercept at minus 2 comma 0. And now we can draw the curve shape. By the way, the turning point of the curve is going to be in the middle of these two solutions, so it'll be at the minus 1, x equals minus 1. So the graph will look something like this. Let me just adjust it a bit. There we go. This is how the graph should look like, and this point over here we can write as minus 1 comma minus 1 the whole squared plus 2 times minus 1, which is minus 1 as well. So minus 1 comma minus 1, we can write that. This is 0 comma 0, and this is minus 2 comma 0. And we can label the graph as y equals x squared plus 2x. That will be our answer. By the way, we don't really need to label the turning point over here. I've just done it for reference. This is the turning point or stationary point of this curve. Now let's go to question 4. The diagram shows a sketch of the graph y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Find the values of a, b, and c. The first thing we can do is to realize that the x-intercepts are minus 5 and minus 2. So if the x-intercepts are minus 5 and minus 2, that means when the quadratic equation is written as y equals a times x plus m times x plus n. So in this case, it'll be y equals a times x plus 5 times x plus 2. Because when this y is 0, that's the x-intercepts, x has to be either minus 5 or minus 2 to make sure that this whole thing becomes 0. Since if this is 0, x plus 5 is 0, that means the whole thing is 0, so x is minus 5. And if this is 0, the whole thing is 0 because you're multiplying, so x is minus 2. That's why the x-intercepts are like this. And why do we have to add this a? That's because we know the y-intercept as well. So in this case, using the y-intercept, we can just substitute x equals 0. And x equals 0, y equals 30 is what's given as the y-intercept. So substituting x equals 0 and y equals 30, we can find the value of a. Now 30 is equal to a times 5 times 2. And therefore, that's 10a. And that means a is 30 by 10, which is 3. Now that means y is equal to 3 times x plus 5 times x plus 2. So that means when we expand this, we get y equals 3 times x squared plus 7x plus 10. How do we get this? We multiply the front, that's an f, multiply the outsides, we get an o for outside, and then we multiply the I inside, and then the last. So this is called the FOIL method, to multiply out two brackets in the form of a plus b times c plus d. It doesn't have to be a plus b, a minus b also works, it just depends on what the question is. So we'll get x squared by multiplying the front, and then the outside will make 2x, the inside will make 5x, so totaling that we get 7x, which I've written there, and then multiplying 5 and 2, the last, that's 10. Now we can multiply the whole thing by 3, y equals 3x squared plus 21x plus 30. And now we know what a, b, and c are. Since y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, so a is equal to 3, b is equal to 21, and c equals 30. And that will be our answer. So you can write this, and that's our answer. Let's go to question 5. Sketch the graph of x squared minus 3x minus 10. On your sketch, write the coordinates of any turning points and the values where the graph crosses the x and y axis. First, let's find the turning points. So x squared minus 3x minus 10, the turning points will be determined by the derivative dy by dx, which in this case is 2x minus 3. How do we get that? Well, x squared, let us take the first term, we can derivative term by term. So we can bring down the power, that's 2, multiplied by the whole thing, and subtract 1 from the power which is there now. So x squared becomes 2x to the power of 1, which is 2x. And that's what we have here. Now minus 3x, this is minus 3x to the power of 1. And bringing this 1 down, we get 1 times minus 3x to the power of 1 minus 1. That's minus 3 because x to the power of 0 is just 1. And then the derivative of any constant, or in this case minus 10, is just 0. Even if you say the derivative of minus 1000, that is still 0. So in this case, derivative is 2x minus 3, and this has to be 0 to find turning points. Now 2x equals 3 and x equals 1.5 is the clear turning point. Now where is the y value? So y of the turning point is going to be 1.5 squared minus 3 times 1.5 minus 10. That's simply going to be 1.5 squared, 2.25, minus 4.5 minus 10. So minus 12.25. So this is the turning point, and we can just label it on the graph. 1.5, comma, minus 12.25. Now since in ax squared plus bx plus c, over here a is equal to 1. And 1 is a positive number, so the graph looks like a U. Now we can find the y and x intercepts. So the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So that means the y-intercept is going to be 0 minus 10, negative 10. And the x-intercepts we can find by substituting y equals 0. So x squared minus 3x minus 10 is equal to 0. We can factorize this. X minus 5 times x plus 2 is equal to 0. That means x equals 5 or minus 2. And of course, y is equal to 0. So x equals 5, x equals minus 2, and the y-intercept, which is minus 10, around there. So now we have all the information we need. We can draw a curve through all these points, which looks like this. And we can just label this as y equals x squared minus 3x minus 10. And of course, we need to label all the points. This is 5, 0. This is minus 2, 0. This is 0, minus 10. And the turning point, which we have already labeled, 1.5, minus 12.25. That's our answer. Let's go to question 6. Solve the equation x minus 5 times 2x squared minus 18 equals 0. So you can write this as 2 times x minus 5 times x squared minus 9. X squared minus 9 is the difference of squares, x squared minus 3 squared. And this can be written as x plus 3 times x minus 3. So you can write this as 2 times x minus 5 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. And this is equal to 0. So that means x has to be 5 minus 3 or 3. That's our answer. B. Sketch the graph of y equals x minus 5 times 2x squared minus 18. On the sketch, write the values where the graph crosses the x and y axis. We already know the x-intercepts, since in the x-intercepts, y is equal to 0, which is what we have. So we can find the y-intercept by substituting x equals 0. So where x equals 0, that's the y-intercepts. And that's going to be y equals 0 minus 5 times 2 times 0 squared minus 18. That's minus 5 times minus 18. And that's simply going to be 90. So when x equals 0, y equals 90, we can label that around there. And when x equals 5, 3, and minus 3, we can draw it 5, 3, minus 3. Now this is going to be our graph. And when we expand this, the first term is 2x cubed. So in ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d, the a value determines the shape of the curve. And since this a is positive, or in other words positive 2, the curve is going to look like this. So we can simply draw the graph like like this, or just this. And now the second part of the curve. Something like this. And this will be our answer, but it's not yet complete because we need to label everything. So minus 3 comma 0 is here. This is 0 comma 90. This is 3 comma 0, and this is 5 comma 0. And we can just label the graph y equals x minus 5 times 2x squared minus 18. Always remember to label graphs. And now this will be our final answer. With that, I come to the end of the video. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, share this video with your friends and family, and comment on how you think this video was. With that, it's me, Sanjay Vasu, signing out. Thank you. Bye.